So now we've got that. Now we can go ahead and turn the finial itself. I've been turning these finials out of African blackwood, which is a really nice wood to work with, although it can be a little hard to work with. I'm going to turn this one out of maple. Maple's a whole lot easier to work with than blackwood, and rule number one of doing a demo is to give yourself a fighting chance. So we'll be using maple.
Cheaper too.
Cheaper too, yeah. You need a piece of wood that's at least 7/8 of an inch diameter. If it's any smaller than that, by the time you've turned the thread on and you're trying to thread it into the hollow form, it's just going to keep on going. You need something that's wider than the hole that we've tapped into the hollow form. This is about 1 1/8 inches. It started off at 1 1/4 inches. By the time I rounded it off, it's about 1 1/8 inches. Before I get started, I want to talk about a cut that I have to think about almost every single cut that I make while turning this finial. And that's what I call the entry cut. There's two things that's going to determine what happens when you first start cutting into the wood. The first is the bevel. The cut is going to proceed in the direction of the bevel. So if I have the tool at 90 degrees to the wood and I have a 40-degree bevel on, once I start cutting, the cut is going to go off in that direction. If I wanted to cut straight into the wood, I need to turn so that the bevel is pointing straight into the wood. The second factor is what's going to happen when that tool first touches the wood. And what determines that is the position of your flutes. Ideally, you need them fully closed so that these two flutes are perpendicular, straight up and down. And then the tool is going to cut straight into the wood. If I have my flute slightly open, when I touch the tool to the wood, it's going to kick off to the left. You see that? If the flutes are are closed too much, the tool will kick off to the right. And what you end up with is a set of spirals in your work. Now if I have the tool with the flute straight up and down, when I touch it to the wood, straight up and down, it pretty much stays in that position. So that's something that I have to constantly remind myself about, particularly when cutting coves, is start off with the flute straight up and down, because it's really discouraging to put those spirals on work that you've just finished. Clean that up. I want to talk about some design considerations. When I first started making these, I wanted to make them, I didn't know how long to make them. And I wanted a length that was going to look right according to the hollow form that I was setting it on. I wanted it to look proportional. And so I decided to use the golden ratio, which that is covered in demos here before. We're all aware that the golden ratio is the proportion of two lengths that is generally accepted as looking pleasing to the eye. It's based on Fibonacci numbers. I think that's how it's pronounced. There's lots of examples of it in nature. And all that technical stuff was great until I was standing in front of my lathe, all covered in sawdust, trying to figure out, well, now what? And you know that commercial, there's an app for that. Well, there's an app for that.
Fibonacci,
I don't know where the folks who have drunk the apple Kool-Aid go to get their apps, but if you have an Android smartphone, just go to the Android market and run a search for golden ratio calculator. Is that coming up?
Yes.
And you'll see what it does is it presents you with three variables: total length, short length, and long length. So we can assume that blue bar, the long length, is the hollow form, and the red bar is the finial. The hollow form that I'm going to be putting finial onto today is this one here. And I've measured it, and it's 4.75 inches high. So all I need to do, what this app does, is you can input any one of the variables and it'll calculate the other two. So I'll just enter 4.75. And it's telling me that I need the finial to be 2.93 inches. Let's call it 3 inches. Bear in mind, this is a guideline. There's nothing written in stone. Rules are made to be broken. So we're going to turn a finial that's approximately 3 inches tall. While I've got this open, I'm also going to use it to calculate some proportions within my finial. I'm going to have an onion in the finial, and the main diameter, the largest diameter of that onion, is going to be towards the bottom. I want to know how far up to put it. So I'm going to base that again on the golden ratio. I know my finial is 3 inches tall, so I'm going to enter that as a variable in the total length, and it's telling me that the short length needs to be 1.14, call it 1 inch and an eighth. So I'm going to put that major diameter of the onion about 1 inch and an eighth up from the top, from the base of the finial. I use this app and this golden ratio in a lot of my wood turning, determining the hollow forms, where to put the major diameter of that. I just find it real handy. We always have our phone with us. So, just thought I'd share that with you. So let's get started. While I have the tool, the headstock up, I'm just going to rough the finial basically into a cone shape. I've measured about 3 1/8 of an inch back here. That's going to be the base of my finial. I've allowed an extra 1/8 of an inch for the wood that I'm going to lose that's been damaged by the center point of the livestock. And now I'll just go ahead and mark 1 inch and an eighth, and that'll be the indication of where the onion's going to be. One of Cindy Drazer's rules for turning a finial, unfortunately, is remove the tailstock. It seems counterintuitive, but that's what it is. So I'd like to position the tool rest so that the post is to the right of the area that I'm cutting into, because one of the second rule is you need to support the work that you're cutting, and I like to bring my hand in from underneath and support the wood as I'm cutting it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of that wood that's been damaged. At some point during the turning of this finial, I'm probably going to demonstrate what happens when you don't focus on the entry cut.
Thanks. We need that.
So the first thing I'm going to turn is the little pointy part at the top. That's the nerve-wracking part. Turning the cove, you start with the flutes fully closed, enter into the wood, I'm going to take the tool pretty much like scooping some ice cream. Back there. The other thing, as well as supporting the cuts, you never want to go back on work that you've already done, and that even applies to the sanding. So I'm going to just sand this top little part. I like using this Abranet, and I can just kind of hold it in a curve.
I'll say that the robust comfort rests, like Lenny was showing today, are very difficult to do the support. They're so deep that you can't get your hand around. So yeah, there you go. I mean, it's great for other things, but for this kind of detail
They
work,
do make a low profile.
that's the one I got. What about the round one? The round one is really
Yeah. You say the low profile is not the
no low profile.
oh,
I have a robust low profile
yeah.
because I do so much of this.
As you turn in the coves, you want to start further back from where you need them and work your way towards them. Cindy Drozder uses a vortex tool. I have a homemade one here, and it's for finishing cuts. It's basically just got a flat grind there and a fingernail grind on the other side. It's pretty much a gouge without a flute. It's really nice for final details. Getting in, cleaning up those areas there. I think part of the reason why it works really good at that in those areas is because it has no flutes. When you're going in to clean up here, sometimes if you're using a spindle gouge or a detail gouge, there's danger of catching the other side with a flute. And obviously with this not having the flutes, that danger is eliminated. The other design consideration that I was running into was how thin to make them. And I found an easy answer to that. I pretty much turn it till I get scared, and then I turn it a little bit more, and then I stop.
One more cut.
When Ed was giving his demonstration, he said that he'll often turn with wearing magnifying glasses. And if it looked small enough then, with the magnifying glasses, by the time it took it off the lathe, it looked alright. You definitely find that the finials will grow in size when you take them off the lathe and put them on the hollow form. Something that you think looks really small on the lathe